I was there when the seasons changed 13 times, 13 cycles of leaves falling and growing again, 13 winters watching snow accumulate on the windowsill of our brick house in Vermont. I know the sound of your footsteps, heavier on the right side where that old football injury makes you favor your left knee. I've memorized how you clear your throat 3 times before speaking on the phone. I know you. My spot has always been the corner of the living room, on that blue rug you bought from a yard sale when we first moved in. The one your daughter said clashed with everything, but you kept anyway. From there, I could watch you read every evening, glasses perched on the end of your nose, the same book open for weeks sometimes. You'd reach down absently to scratch behind my ears, not looking away from your page. My days were spent following the patches of sunlight across the hardwood floors, the scent of your coffee hanging in the air each morning, and waiting for the jingle of your keys that meant walks and fresh air and squirrels to chase. Life was predictable, comfortable, marked by the reliability of your movements and our shared routines. Before it all changed, you used to say my name every time you entered a room, as if announcing your arrival. "Hey, buddy." 2 simple words that meant I existed in your world. My tail would thump against the floor, a drumbeat of recognition. The first time you forgot to fill my water bowl, I thought nothing of it. Humans get distracted. I waited patiently until you remembered hours later, apologizing profusely while I lapped up the cool water. "Sorry, old boy, don't know where my head was today." We'd spend evenings on the porch swing, your hand resting on my head, both of us watching the fireflies emerge as darkness fell. Sometimes you'd talk to me about your day, about people and places I'd never seen. Other times we'd sit in complete silence, just the sound of crickets and your breathing. A little more labored each year. You taught me to wait for treats, to sit before crossing streets, to be gentle with small children. I taught you that sometimes the best response to sadness is simply presence, a warm body pressed against your leg while you cried after that phone call about your brother. We had a language that wasn't words. It was the way you'd look at me across a room when your friends were talking too much, a silent message. Soon they'll leave and it'll be just us again. It was how I could tell from 3 rooms away that you were putting on shoes, which meant adventure was imminent. The night your daughter called and you whispered my name into my fur after hanging up, holding me tighter than usual, I knew something was wrong. But we had each other. That had always been enough. The changes came gradually, like twilight stealing across the yard, so slow you barely notice until suddenly it's dark. You started putting my food bowl in different places, sometimes in the bathroom, sometimes by the front door. I'd find it eventually, but the consistency that had marked our days began to fray at the edges. You'd open the back door to let me out, then forget I was outside. I'd wait, watching through the glass as you wandered from room to room, a puzzled expression on your face. Eventually, your daughter started coming over more often. She'd find me on the porch, sometimes hours later, and her face would crumple a little before she composed herself and let me in. "Dad," she'd say, "you have to remember Buddy needs to come back inside." And you'd look startled, then ashamed. "Of course," you'd say. I was just about to. But the most frightening moment was when you looked at me one morning as if seeing me for the first time, your brow furrowed, eyes narrowed in confusion. "When did we get a dog?" you asked your daughter when she brought your medication. She explained who I was, how long I'd been with you. You nodded as if understanding, but the recognition never quite reached your eyes. The scent of your fear began to permeate the house, a sharp, acrid smell that made my nose twitch. You'd always been the confident one, the one who knew where the leash was kept and when dinner should be served. Now uncertainty followed you from room to room like a shadow. The words started appearing then, in hushed conversations between your daughter and the people who began visiting regularly. Alzheimer's, a word that meant nothing to me but seemed to explain everything to them. I remember everything. The way you used to throw the tennis ball with perfect aim, always to the spot in the yard where I had the most room to run. The specific tone you used when you'd say, "Wanna go for a ride?" that made my whole body vibrate with excitement. The night of the thunderstorm when you let me sleep on the bed instead of in my usual spot, your hand resting on my side all night. Now I watch you struggle to remember which cabinet holds the cups. I see you stare at photographs on the wall with blank confusion. The man who once knew exactly how many scoops of food to put in my bowl now sometimes feeds me twice in an hour, or not at all until your daughter reminds you. The smell of medication has joined the familiar scents of our home, bitter little pills crushed into applesauce because you refuse to swallow them whole. The calendar in the kitchen has appointments written in your daughter's handwriting, not yours. Names of doctors, times to be places, instructions underlined twice. Some days are better. You wake up and seem to know exactly who I am, calling me to your side while you have your toast and coffee. On those mornings, I can almost believe nothing has changed, but by afternoon, the fog often returns, and you look at me with that polite uncertainty, as if I'm a neighbor's pet who's wandered into your yard. I've learned to approach you differently now, slowly, cautiously, giving you time to process my presence before I come close enough to touch. I've learned to read the subtle signs that tell me whether today you remember the life we've shared or whether I am a stranger to you. The worst are the days when fear overtakes you, when my familiar presence becomes threatening because you don't recognize me. On those days, I retreat to the far corner of the room, watching, waiting for the moment to pass. Your daughter explains to me with tears in her eyes that it's not your fault, as if I could ever blame you. Last Tuesday, something remarkable happened. The morning had been difficult. You couldn't find your glasses, they were on your head, and you'd called me by your childhood dog's name. But as evening approached, and the sunlight took on that golden quality it gets in late afternoon, something shifted. You were sitting in your armchair, the one with the worn armrests and the permanent indentation from years of use. I was lying on the rug nearby, not too close, respecting the new boundaries of our relationship. Without warning, you made a soft clicking sound with your tongue, the same sound you've made thousands of times when calling me to you. My head lifted immediately, ears perked forward in hopeful anticipation. You were looking directly at me, and your eyes were clear and present in a way they hadn't been for months. "Buddy," you said, your voice cracking slightly. "Come here, old friend." I approached cautiously, tail wagging hesitantly, until I reached your outstretched hand. You scratched that perfect spot behind my ears, and for a moment, we were us again. "We've had some good times, haven't we?" you murmured, your fingers finding all my favorite spots without hesitation. I'm just sorry." I pressed my head against your knee, trying to tell you that no apology was necessary. That I understood, even if I didn't really. That some things, like the bond between a man and his dog, exist beyond memory, in the realm of something deeper and more primal. You held my face between your hands and looked into my eyes with complete recognition. "You're a good boy," you said, and I knew you meant it. The very best boy. The moment passed, as they always do. By morning, confusion had reclaimed its territory in your mind, but for those few precious minutes, you had returned to me completely. They tell me dogs don't understand time the way humans do. Perhaps that's true. But I understand constancy. I understand that regardless of whether you remember my name today, I remember yours. I remember every walk, every game of fetch, every time you slipped me scraps under the table when your daughter wasn't looking. The seasons continue to change outside our window. Your daughter visits more frequently now, sometimes staying overnight. New people come to help, strangers in colorful uniforms who speak to you slowly and loudly, as if volume could penetrate the fog in your mind. But some things remain unchanged. I still follow the patches of sunlight across the floor. I still wait by the door when it's time for walks, even if someone else holds the leash now. And each night, I still lie on the blue rug in the corner of the living room, watching over you as you sleep in your chair. On your good days, when recognition flickers in your eyes, I savor every moment. On your bad days, when I am just another confusion in a world that makes less and less sense to you, I keep my distance but never leave, because that's what we do for those we love. We stay. Your scent is changing subtly as the disease progresses, a fact the humans around us wouldn't notice, but is as obvious to me as the difference between day and night. But underneath it all, beneath the medications and the fear and the confusion, you are still you. And I would know your scent anywhere. Time is a river that carries us all, but love is the stone that remains when all else has washed away. And so I remain, faithful witness to your journey, guardian of our shared memories. Even when you forget my name, I remember yours, and that in the end is enough.